Hey, badass black girls, and they making big moves. Hey, badass black girls, nothing that you can't do. They are the future, I'm trying to tell ya. They want the best, no time to settle. They got the strength to handle the pressure. These are the queens, nobody better. Yeah, changing the narrative, that is imperative. They about to rock this. Tell the women that you got this. Got no time for people who are toxic. It's all love, good vibes. You know I got your back, girl. Talking issues that matter. This is badass black girl, yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Badass Black Girl. Your friend MJ here, and with me is the wonderful Latrice Fowler. How, Latrice?
Hi, MJ.
Would you please introduce yourself?
I sure can. I am Latrice Fowler. I am a nonfiction writer in the personal and spiritual development space. I've been writing full time for about 5, 6 years now. I believe the seed to write was planted back in high school, and then of course I got married and we had kids, so it was kind of shelved a little bit. But once they got grown, I was off and running. So yeah, I've been writing for about 6 years now. Mhm.
I'm so happy you could join us today because I wanted to ask you questions about your work, questions about you becoming a writer, what led you to write so many questions. And here you are, this
Yes.
being Badass Black Girl. So you can tell us all about your wonderful career as a writer. So tell us, Latrice, when did you start to write?
Well, I've always played around with words, so I always knew I was going to do something with words. Now, when I back in high school, like I said in the beginning, I belted out at like graduation that I was going to be a writer one day, and I was gonna, publish all these books, but I didn't have the grades to back that up back then. So I don't know where that came from. But over the years, I've just been, playing around with words, and always knew that I wanted to do something with them. But like I said, I raised my family, and life happened. But then when they started to become grown and out there finding their own life, I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And so that seed was rejuvenated, and God was like, you know what, it's time for you to put pen to paper and use those words for some good. And so in 2015, I told everyone, hey, I'm getting ready to be a writer, and had no clue what that meant. So I just started to condition myself as a writer, doing it every day, and implementing different schedules and techniques and things like that, and following other writers just to see what their process was, so I could also develop my own processes. So yeah, it all started in 2015 for me, for real, So yeah.
I hear many things.
Hmm.
The first thing I hear is that at first you were not sure that you had enough talent because of your grades. And I
Yes.
think it's really important because sometimes my students get discouraged. They
Hmm.
feel that, well, I'm not good at this, so I might as
Hmm.
well give up. Sometimes your grades are just a reflection of where you are at that
Right.
moment in time.
Yes.
Look at you. If you had given up on writing altogether, you
Yes.
wouldn't be the fabulous writer that you are today. So that's the first lesson I take from your story. The
Hmm.
second one, you talked about working on a schedule.
Hmm.
To me, that means discipline.
Yes.
So being able to really decide to find a time and to be
Hmm.
specific, to be precise in the
Hmm.
way that you schedule your time
Yes.
so that you can actually write. And I think
Yes.
this is also an important lesson.
Hmm.
So all this, the effort, the commitment led you to publishing. So tell us a little bit about the work that you've published.
Well, like I said, I'm in the nonfiction space, and when I first started my journey as a writer, I was basically getting ready to commemorate my husband and our 20th wedding anniversary. So that was the first project I was going to work on, and it was going to be this like little love book of our journey, because we did get married really young, and we had 3 kids, and we were celebrating that huge milestone. And I believe I was turning 40 that year. Our oldest daughter was was graduating from high school. She was turning 18. So it was a lot of moving parts that was happening in that same year. And so when I sat down to write like just notes and things for that project, it really put me in a place where I'm like, well, can I really do this? And I was really being stretched with the things that I wanted to put into that project. So that project unfortunately got halted because God was directing me somewhere else, and I believe He was directing me to not only condition myself as a writer and um, sift through all of the mind mess that was going on in my head, that I wasn't good enough, that why would I, utter the words I'm writing a book when this was so hard, and there's so many things that lead up to writing a book and not just speaking the words. And so I did, like you said, I had to become disciplined. I had to figure out what that meant and what that looked like for me, because this was something very new that I was doing. It was also something new that I was introducing into my everyday life, and therefore my family had to become used to it. So they also had to condition themselves with the schedules and the things that I was trying to implement. So yeah, it was a journey. When people say this is a journey, they are not it's not taken lightly. It is a journey. So yeah, it's not just me as a writer that had to adjust, but everyone around me that was I was sharing my life with also had to adjust. So my first official book was called Mind Mess, a back and forth breakdown of a messy mind. And when I was writing, I would see a lot of people say, well, just sit down and write anything, even if it's journal entries. Well, those were journal entries, and they were self bashing journal entries like, you're not good enough. Why are you doing this? The people that you're reading, they're better than you. And so I thought that if I was going through this mind mess, other people were going through a mind mess of their own. So I ended up collecting all of those journal entries and creating that book. And then I also was on a spiritual journey, and I knew that I was not the person or the limits I was putting upon myself. So I knew that there was power in prayer. And so I would also write down prayers. And then it's a two-part book. It's Mind Mess, and then The Power of Prayer, the reconstruction of a messy mind through the mighty power of prayer. And so uh, I would take all of those prayers and I put that in the second half of that book. So that was the first book that I felt God was leading me to write, because there are so many people that are battling with the mess of our thoughts. And so I thought it was really important to share that part of my journey with my readers. Yeah.
And you said many important things. You mentioned the fact that you became aware of the negative self talk that was happening in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You're sitting
Yes.
down to write, kind of free writing, which is an activity
Mm-hmm.
that I encourage many of my students to use, because it allows you to really tap into what's going on the inside. And
Mm-hmm.
not only you were able to kind of tap into this, but also to realize that this experience is not unique. It's
Right.
a universal experience.
Yes.
And your willingness to share what you are going through with other people. And the most beautiful part is when you're talking about being able to use prayer as
Mm-hmm.
part of your writing routine, so that it becomes an integral part of what you're doing.
Yes.
So all this to say that writing often is seen by people who are not familiar with it as this mundane type of activity. You sit down and you're cool just writing, maybe you have a
Mm-hmm.
beret. But in many instances it's a true emotional slash spiritual experience,
Yes.
and it seems that's what happened to you.
Yes. Yeah, it did. I mean, it was when I was doing, I didn't know it at the time, because all of these negative thoughts were kind of crippling my process and my progress. And so once I started to inject the prayers and make those more a part of my everyday and my routine, I felt like it was a release to get all of that mess out of my mind. And combat that with the prayers. And then I was able to open up to other ideas and really embrace that, okay, this is the right path that I'm supposed to be on, because I'm not only being broken down, but I'm also being rebuilt into this person. That's why I always tell people I have been conditioning myself to become this author, to become this writer. It did not happen overnight. It took and takes a lot of patience, especially when you want to tell certain messages to uplift other people. And I feel like my whole life has been preparing me for this, because I've always been that person that people would come to for advice. I've always been an inspirational type person, and I didn't know, throughout my life that I would be able to do that through words. And I often say that I am obedient to the words that flow within me, because I feel like what I've gone through, what I'm going through, what I will go through can help the next person, and that's basically what I'm all about. I am about helping someone else through their limiting beliefs, because I've also experienced the same thing. So yeah.
Tell us a little bit, Latrice, about what you do when you're not writing.
What I do when I'm not writing, I like, for instance, like if I'm watching a movie, the movie has to have some sort of meaning for me. I like movies where a person is on a journey, or telling their journey of how they have overcome something. It always has to have a message. The books that I read always has to have some sort of message to inspire me to move past whatever I'm trying to overcome. So I'm always trying to inject and experience motivation and encouragement. So I try to attract that into my life. So I try to do that. And then the people that I surround myself around are the people that I want um, to also receive those things too. So I'm very particular, you know what I mean? So yeah. I need positivity. I'm very a very positive person, so I try to stay within those bounds.
I think that in the past few months, we've realized how important it is to
Yes,
be able to be positive.
yes,
And I think that people who have a natural tendency to be positive um, have been able to really get centered and deal with all the issues that we've been facing
mhm,
in the world. So let me ask you, Latrice, you've talked about writing as this deeply spiritual experience, something um, that you receive and you give, it seems
mhm,
to me, because you're being inspired and you're able to find peace through writing, with the understanding that you're also helping the person who's reading your book by giving them wisdom and sharing your stories, letting them know that everything is going to be fine.
mhm,
um, what about the way that you use self-care in your everyday life? It's a question that I ask a lot because creativity can be so helpful when it comes to just dealing with everyday struggles and just remaining positive. You mentioned the importance of positivity. What are some techniques that you use in your everyday life that maybe you've taught your child how to use, or that you encourage other people to use?
mhm. I do tend to start with prayer in the morning, and my spiritual walk with devotionals and things like that. So that centers my day. And then I also write out my gratitude. I am very grateful for things, even to come through that day. I like to say I speak it into existence. So I'm always speaking something that I know will happen or I want to happen. So I use that. And then I also I go on a search for other people who are doing positive things, and I read about them, and I watch videos, and I try to curate my social media towards positivity, especially like on my Facebook feed. I've curated where I only see things about writing, or I only see things about uplifting women. Or on my Instagram feed, I'm following writers that I actually read, and that I admire. And so I'm really big about curating my environment and my space with all things positive, because anything negative, I mean, it can really drain you. And so I don't want to feel like that. I spent over 20 years in a very deep, dark depression because I was a victim of molestation and incest in my family. And so once I was able to overcome those feelings and be on the other side of depression, and I was very animate about everything that I do moving forward is going to be as much as I can control, it will be positive in my environment. So I try to stay within those realms. Mm-hmm.
You're really forthcoming about your struggle with depression, and it's a subject that remains taboo in Black communities, right? We don't speak about it, and very often when people talk about depression, it's not always to find a solution,
Mm-hmm.
but to be judgmental and sometimes just to have an opinion. What would you recommend to someone who's going through some very dark times right now, who might need help, but who feels that they are not getting the help from their parents or their family members, their community? What is the next step?
I struggled with that as well. It took me years and years to really come out with how I was feeling about it and how I was dealing with it. But then when I started having kids, I could see that it was not only affecting me, but it was affecting them, my family, my husband. So um, I felt like it was time to talk to someone. And it wasn't a family member. I felt like, I don't know if I felt like I couldn't trust any family members, but I just didn't feel comfortable, talking about how I was feeling. So I looked to a women's organization, and they actually at the time had free therapy sessions. And so I took the initiative to call up one day and make an appointment, and I cussed and fussed the whole way there once I got the appointment, because I couldn't believe I was getting ready to share this information with someone. But it was the right time. I think it was the right time to do it, and so I stuck with it. And like I said before, getting all of that stuff out of your mind is a release, and that's exactly what that was for me. And it opened up so much more that I could see myself doing once I was able to, unpack all of that burden that I was carrying for so long. And I believe that while I was doing that, I have two daughters, and I really wanted to show them that there was nothing that could ever happen to them or to me that couldn't be dealt with, and not so much fixed, but move past and be able to deal with life in a different way. And so once I got past all of that, it was like I woke up and I was this grown woman ready to conquer the world. Now that I let my younger self rest and go, and I was able to deal with that. And so yeah, I think talking to someone, even if it's not a family member or someone close to you, but there are so many wonderful organizations that are there and ready and willing to help you through that process. So I feel like they should reach out and not harbor that in, because then they won't um, feel how it feels to be on the other side of that depression, you know?
And when can people where can people get in touch with you if, let's say, that they get your book and they want to talk a little bit more about the content? um,
Mhm.
is there that one place where you gather with other writers? I know that so many things have been happening during the pandemic in terms of finding alternate ways to talk about literature and to talk about books, where can they find you, Latrice, if they are looking for more interaction with you and getting to know you a little better?
Well, my website, latricefowler.com. I'm all over social media on at author Latrice. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Clubhouse, and I think that's where I saw you for the first time. So big ups to Clubhouse. And I just recently soft launched a podcast called Nonfiction is My Lane, where I felt like it was really important to showcase other writers and how we have curated our processes and what it looks like for us to um, build that writing routine and get those books published. And I also have an audible blog called Blog Shots, where I talk about um, all things right life, and I call them right shots. I talk about mindset shots, which mindset is so important to to talk about and also to work on. So I also give little shots of mindset inspiration, and then I do spiritual shots, which I always have to inject God into my everyday. So I do spiritual shots too, and they're basically anywhere from 2 to 5 minute little shots. I called them. They're audible. An audible blog of spoken thought, and then I'm also introducing author shooters, which is just candid author chats, because I wanted to create, like you said, an author community, because of not just because of the pandemic, but all of the people that I interact with are all over the world. So I wanted to utilize that Audible platform to also do that. So yeah, I'm all over the web at Author Latrice, so I won't be hard to find.
I'll make sure to include all the links in the description so people can find you.
Mhm.
Latrice, it's been such a pleasure
Yes,
to listen to you. I know that your writing is faith focused, and
yes,
I can see it through your words just
yes.
talking to you, and I'm deeply inspired. I
Thank you.
definitely want to follow you.
Okay.
Um, I encourage everyone to follow you on Facebook, on Clubhouse, everywhere, because in addition to talking about your own writing, you do have all those meaningful conversations with other writers, with other Black women writers, and those conversations are so important right now, um, that we are kind of reclaiming the space
Yes.
that belongs to us in the world. And I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing, and
Yes.
that you're bringing positivity and inspiration and faith into the lives of the readers. I hope you will come again to visit us
Mhm.
at Badass Black Girl.
Sure
And,
will.
and I wish you good luck with everything you do. Until next time.
Thank you, MJ. I do appreciate you having me here. It's been a blast. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
See you soon.
All right, you too. Thank you. Bye bye.